Good evening, this is Nicholas from Gandora Gaming, and Bestill My Beating Heart, Phantom of Nightmare reveals a brand new ritual archetype in the form of the Silenforce, and I'm really excited to go over with these cards with y'all today. Rituals is one of my favorite mechanics in Yu-Gi-Oh! I know it's looked at as the redheaded stepchild of summoning mechanics, but personally, some of my favorite archetypes of all time have been rituals. From Prediction Princess to Nouvelles to Libromancers, there's always something unique with the ritual mechanic, how Konami tries to make them actually playable, and I'm always excited to see what they are up to. There's never been a boring ritual mechanic, in my opinion, but there's always been a lot of unfair ones. A lot of people don't like rituals because they're either very unplayable or they're tier 0 menaces or tier 1 menaces that completely make unfair games. From Gishki loops to Necros sitting on a unicorn being the tier 0 menace it was, to ultimately Drytron creating Herald of Ultimatus Turbo or Vanity's being locked. And I can understand that. There's a lot of very unfun mechanics, but that's honestly just how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. I'm always excited to see how rituals do, and let's see if this is no exception. Let's see if these cards are absolutely insane, or they're just going to be a really cool, interesting archetype that people are going to ignore for the other archetypes in this set. But let's just get straight into this. So first things first, before we actually go into the archetype, I feel like I should go over the original ritual monster this archetype is based around. If you don't know, the original archetype this archetype is created under used to be a very popular ritual back in Herald and Heraldic days, funny enough. This archetype is actually based around one of my favorite rituals of all time, that being Sarnir, Sarfir, the Queen of Dragons. Now, she's absolutely a insane card, and a lot of older ritual decks used to play her, but she never had her own archetype, and she never had any support around her. So as ritual mechanics in Yu-Gi-Oh! Kept progressing, a lot of people just stopped playing her altogether. I think the only decks that actually play Seraph, the Queen of Dragons, is some heraldic decks, because a ritual summon is also counted as a tribute summon. Thus, you can tribute your heraldics, and the heraldics will trigger their effects. So it's a very, very interesting mechanic that way, which maybe if you guys want, I'll make a deck profile on it. But I'm glad Sarfir is finally getting its own archetype, and I'm going to read Sarfir to you guys now and see how this archetype works around it, or how this archetype makes this card absolutely busted, because we have not had a disappointing ritual archetype in a very long time. To be honest with you, I don't think we've ever had a disappointing ritual archetype. Megalith have had seen competitive play until Block Dragon was banned. I know everyone hates Drytron, but hey, Drytron is still Drytron, still a really, really powerful deck. Libromancers and Novellas are seeing fringe play, but never really to the competitive ladder that their other contemporaries do. But I still think they're really, really fun, powerful rogue decks. And yeah, I want to see what this deck can do. So let's read Sarnir, and then we'll go over the new cards. Alright, so this very, very old Ritual Dragon monster is a level 6 Dragon Ritual that can only be ritual summoned using the Ritual Magic card. That's how old this card is. You have to use it, refers to ritual spells and spells in general as magic cards. Helm of Light. And then once per turn, when a light monster is sent to the graveyard, choose one and activate one of these effects. So you get to draw 2 cards, discard 1 card your opponent's hand, or add 1 light monster from your graveyard to your hand. So it's never been the most broken card, but the fact that on Ritual Summon this card draws you 2, and it's a 2500 beat stick is really, really cool. So this deck has seen a lot of competitive play, and I'm glad a whole archetype is based around it. I don't think Helm of Right does much, but we can read it real quick. Helm of Right is the ritual spell, and basically Helm of Light, we're going to read it real quick. This card can be used to ritual summon, of course, our lovely, lovely monster. And then it does anything else on the field? No, you can't exceed the level of 6. If this ritual monster you control will be destroyed by card effects, while this card is in your graveyard, banish this card instead. So the ritual spell, all it does is protects it, which is decent, but compared to modern ritual decks or just modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, Drawing 2 off a ritual monster with already minus you 2 really isn't enough. But maybe this new archetype makes it really, really insane. We'll just have to find out right now. So let's actually read the brand new monsters and see if it's any good. So first things first, we have a brand new level 1 fairy monster. This is Novax, the Silenforce Disciple. This card is a level 1 light fairy, 50 attack, 2050 defense. I wonder if those stats matter in like lore-wise, but yeah, it's a 50 attack monster, so be afraid for your mathematics skills when this card ultimately get hits in the face, because you will be having doing 50s instead of hundreds. But this card is already really cool. I love the artwork. It kind of looks like Red Riding Hood. But let's actually read what this card does. If this card is normal or special summoned, place 1 Silenforce continuous spell or trap from your deck in the face-up spell and trap zone. So already this card pluses you 1. Basically all normal or special. This card literally just says, hey, place a continuous spell or trap into the spell and trap zone, which is already insane because you cannot ash this card, which is really, really good. Second effect of this card is if this card is ritual summoned, or if you would ritual summon exactly 1 light warrior or dragon ritual monster, this card can be used as the entire requirement, which is a amazing effect. We haven't had this type of like ruling or effects on a monster since Necroz. Be honest, I think Konami was a little scared to give a ritual deck this stats ever since Necroz, because when Necroz or meta, they had a monster that basically said, hey, I have this effect and you can just use me as the full ritual. And for the longest time, that card was put to 1 and even banned. So I'm really happy that ultimately they are finally giving ritual decks this effect on their ritual monsters, because for the last like 6 ritual archetypes, we haven't had a monster that completes the entire ritual requirement. And I always thought Gishkis and Necrons, being older strategies, having this effect always kept them in the running. But if newer strategies start getting this effect, we might see a change in the meta. So we'll just have to see. Then its third and final effect is if a light warrior or dragon monster is ritual summoned, you can special summon this card from your field, from your graveyard to the field. That is really, really solid. So basically this card says, hey, you ritual summoned your monster? Cool, special summon me and search again. I'm guessing this archetype is going to want to ritual summon on your opponent's turn. Basically saying, hey, you special summon me during on the turn your monster is summoned. And then, hey, I get you a search during your turn, during your opponent's turn. And I also chain block on the summon, which is really, really solid. So that is an insane effect right there. Then we have a brand new Sarafir the Wise Silenforce Queen. I think this is the original monster. She's like the original Sarafir Queen. I think this is like her human form or angel form. It's a level 6 light dragon effect monster, 2500 attack, 2400 defense. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name once per turn. You can discard this card, send 1 ritual spell from your deck to graveyard. Then you can add 1 light warrior or dragon ritual monster from your deck to hand. So I already like this. It basically says, hey, I'm not a brick in hand. Yes, I'm level 6, which by the way completes the ritual requirements for the ritual dragon monster, because it is a level 6 monster. So she already completes the full tribute there. But basically she just says, hey, discard me, add the ritual monster, which is pretty good. Now it also gets rid of your ritual spell into grave. Maybe it has an effect in grave. So this might actually be a +2, which is really, really strong. And then its second effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard, ritual summon 1 light warrior or dragon ritual monster from your hand by attributing monsters from your hand or field whose levels equal to or exceed the level of the ritual monster to ritual summon. So that's already an insane effect. Basically, this card says, hey, the ritual spell is going to be used in your graveyard for something else. We're actually going to use the monster to complete the ritual summon, which is actually insane. I think this is the first time Konami has given a monster in the main deck the ability to ritual summon your opponent's monsters, which is absolutely really insane. So I really like this card, and it seems like it's like a +3 because it's a ritual spell. It searches your ritual monster, it completes the full tribute, and it foolish burials a card. Like, this card seems insane. So does the main deck level 1 too. They both seem insane. Alright, so let's actually continue on with the cards. We have one final main deck monster besides our new ritual, that being Saravas, the Sagely Silenforce Dragon. This is a level 7 light dragon effect monster, 2600 attack, defense is 2800, and it seems like it's a pretty big boy. 2600 isn't too bad. Let's read what this guy actually does and see if he's any good. So you can only special summon this card when its first effect of this card once per turn. You can only use the second effect of this card once per turn. You can only special summon him by shuffling 2 spells from your hand or graveyard into a deck, including at least 1 ritual spell. So now we actually know why we're using Saravir to actually Foolish Burial Goods are ritual spells, because you need it in order to special summon this big guy onto the field. And then when he is on the field, when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, return this card to your hand, and then you special summon a light warrior or dragon ritual monster from your hand or deck, but shuffle it into the deck during the end phase and the next turn. So this card literally says, hey, when I'm on the field, you just cheat out a ritual. Just free ritual summon. Like no tributing, no nothing. Just tag me out back to hand, and then summon a ritual from your deck. That is absolutely broken. That is an absurdly, really powerful effect. The fact that this guy literally cheats one out is really good. And the fact that he returns back to hand, meaning you just keep resummoning him, is absolutely superbly amazing. So far, the 3 main deck monsters have been 10 out of 10s. Let's see if the new ritual is any good, because I'll be honest, as much as I like draw 2 or rip a card out of your opponent's hand, we need a brand new ritual monster if this deck is going to be any competitive. So let's actually read this. So we have the Skull Guardian of the Silenforcing Protector. This is a level 7 light warrior ritual effect monster, 2050 attack, and 2500 defense. So it's actually not that big of a monster. Let's keep reading. So this card, you can ritual summon this card by using Silenforcing Prayer. You can only use the first and third effect of this card once per turn. Its first effect is, if this card is ritual summon, you can add 1 Silenforce monster or 1 warrior or dragon ritual monster from your deck to hand. So basically this guy says on ritual summon, you just add a monster. You either add another ritual or you add one of your main deck guys. Really strong card, and let's keep reading. So this card, second effect, which is a continuous effect, gains 2050 attack while Knoxville the Silenforce Disciple is on field or in graveyard. So that already explains why he is such a low stat, because basically you want to have Silenforce Disciple level 1 either on field or in your graveyard while this guy's on field, because if she is on field or in your graveyard, this guy is a 4100 beat stick, which is absolutely insane. 4100 is nothing to scoff at. This guy is gigantic, and yeah, he's very intimidating. And finally, his third and final effect. When your opponent activates a card or effect while you control Nox, the Silenforce Disciple, quick effect, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. So he's an Omni Negate. So he's a 4100 Omni Negate, which is really insane. Now, I will say some caveats. His second effect is better than his third effect when it comes to like the requirements. Basically, Silenforce Disciple, the level 1, only has to be in your graveyard for him to be a 4100, but she has to be on field for him to be an Omni Negate. So if your opponent can actually hit over 2100 without activating anything, and then they can just clear that, and then basically your guy is no longer an Omni Negate, which really does suck. I wish that effect of being in hand or being on field or engrave applied to the Omni Negate effect, but overall it's still a really strong monster. It's a +1 on summon because it does search. Not to mention it is an Omni, and their little girl is going to special summon herself on your ritual summon. So overall, it's a really great card. I just wish that the Omni Negate wasn't privy to you having a little level 1 on field, in my personal opinion. Now we have to go over the ritual spells. We have Silenforcing Prayer. So this is a normal ritual spell. You can only use the second effect of this card once per turn. The first effect is, hey, you can ritual summon any ritual monster from your hand by tributing light monsters from your hand or field whose total level equals to or exceeds the level of the ritual monster whose ritual summoned. That's already a really, really solid effect. So basically it says, hey, you can basically allows you to ritual summon either both ritual monsters. So you don't have to play Helm of Light anymore. This card can be used to do it. So this replaces Helm of Light. If you're wondering if you're playing that card, you don't. This is your new Helm of Light. Second effect is if a light ritual monster you control leaves the field by your opponent's card effect. So basically, if they pop it with a Kaiju Slumber or they just nuke it with some like Dark Hole or Raigeki, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Spell summon one Salvis, the Ancient Ascended, Salvis, Queen of the Dragons, or Skull Guardian of a Silent Enforcing Protector from your deck or hand, ignoring its summoning condition. So that's actually really, really insane. So basically this guy says, hey, you got rid of my ritual monster, I'm just going to tag out into another ritual monster. So that's actually really insane. Protection. So I really like this card. This card seems simple enough. You're not really going to ritual summon with it. You can, but most likely you're going to ritual summon using the Sarafir Queen graveyard effect. But basically this card says, hey, I'm in graveyard, you kill my ritual. My ritual's tagging out into another ritual. So be luck with that. That's actually really, really good. But if you read that effect, you might have just realized something. There is a third ritual in this archetype. It looks like the other ritual dragon that doesn't have its own archetype is actually played as a hand trap, is actually a part of this archetype, which is actually kind of insane. If you just noticed the text that I just read, yeah, we have a brand new other ritual to go over. So it's not really brand new, but it's another ritual we must discuss. This is Saravis, the Ancient of Ascended. This card is actually played as a hand trap in most decks. It protects you from targeting. So this guy says on ritual summon, you can ritual summon this card with Splight of Pressing, which is probably another ritual spell we won't be playing. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a monster you control, quick effect, discard this card, negate the activation. Then your opponent would special summon a monster, quick effect, return this card to hand, negate the special summon, and if you do, banish this monster. So that's already insane. So now I'm actually debating if we're actually playing the original level 6 ritual. We could, but I feel like because we have 3 different rituals part of this archetype, we might just play Saravis as a protection card and a ritual monster, because this card is both. It's both a hand trap and it's now a ritual summon monster that we ritual summon to basically be Solemn Warning on legs, which is really, really insane. And the fact that our level 7 can tag out into this guy is really, really good. And now this actually makes sense. So that old man, the main deck monster that we just saw, that is his human form. This is the dragon form of him, which makes sense now. Because I was wondering like where he fits in the lore of this archetype, because we knew that the Saravis girl turns into the dragon. But what's he involved here? Is he like her dad? Well, here he is. Here's his dragon form. So that's actually really, really cool. Yeah, I'm really excited now. So now this deck has an Omnigate that's 4,000 attack. They also have a Ritual level 7 that's a hand trap. And also is a quick effect, return back to hand to Solemn Warning opponent's monster to negate the special summon and banish it. That's really good. And also it's plural. So let's say they're pendulum summoning. You can negate the entire pendulum summon and banish them. This card is absolutely insane in the context of this new ritual deck. So the fact you can cheat this guy out using the level 7 and you only need a ritual summon him is really, really good. And the fact that he's just a hand trap as well, so he's not even a break, is even better. I'm really excited about this archetype now because this actually seems kind of crazy. The 3 main deck monsters all seem like really, really powerful search and like consistency cards. And this level 7 ritual is really, really good just for protection. Also, it's a Solemn Warning on legs. The other guy is a 41,000 beat stick that's also a Omni Negate. And the other ritual rips a card out of your opponent's hand or draws you 2 cards. So either way you slice it, this archetype has really 3 amazing ritual monsters, which is really, really insane. And I'm really happy about that. Let's keep reading and let's see if these cards, these continuous spells and traps, will make or break this archetype. Let's see how they go. And now let's read the 3rd and final spell card. Actually, it's only the 2nd spell card. My bad. The continuous spell. This is Silenforce Barrier. It's a continuous spell. You can only use the 2nd effect of this card name once per turn. While you control a Nox or Silent Disciple or a light ritual monster, your opponent's monsters can target non-ritual monsters for attack. Also, your opponent can't target light monsters you control with card effects. So this is how you protect your little Omni Negate. So this card literally reads, while I'm on the field, your opponent can't declare attack on a level 1 little girl, meaning they have to attack into the 4100 ritual monster, which is an Omni Negate. And also, you can't target that card with card effects. That is actually a really solid effect. And then its 2nd effect is, during the main phase, you can add 1 Symphonic card or Skull Guardian ritual monster from your deck to your hand, except Silenforce Barrier. So that is already really, really solid. I don't know what Silenforce Barrier is, but basically, oh no, it's Silenforce Barrier is this card. My apologies. It can't add itself. But during your main phase, you just add a Symphonic card or your ritual monster to your hand. That's really, really solid. This card is a +1, also its protection. This card is insane. So far this ritual deck seems really, really consistent, which is good. Ritual decks can sometimes be bricky, especially the older ones. So I'm glad Konami is like making modern day ritual decks really super consistent. I feel like they're some of the most consistent decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And they have to be because there's such a goofy mechanic. And there's such a hard mechanic to do that you need all the consistency cards in the world. So I'm really happy with the archetype so far. Let's actually read the final card. This is a continuous trap. This is Silenforce Authority. The continuous trap card, you can only use the 1st effect of this card once per turn. During the main phase, you can activate one of these effects. Shuffle 1 light warrior or dragon ritual monster or 1 ritual spell from your hand or graveyard into the deck. And if you do, take 1 Symphonic monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. So this guy literally says, hey, shuffle back 1 of your ritual monsters or ritual spells from your graveyard. And then, hey, special summon your Symphonic monsters from your deck. Which means, I think this guy can cheat out the level 7, who then can tag out. So that's really, really insane. This card literally says, oh, your opponent's stopping on my turn. Cool. Flip up this trap card. Shuffle back 1 of my spells or shuffle back 1 of my monsters. And then I get the guy anyway. That's actually really incredible. And then its 2nd and final effect is you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of light warriors or dragon ritual monsters you control. Destroy them. Also destroy this card. This archetype seems absolutely busted. This continuous trap literally says, hey, I'm popping 2 cards and my ritual summon ritual monsters are either an Omni Gate or a Soul Morning on legs, and you can target them with card effects and they float when they die. This archetype seems insane. It ritual summons on your opponent's turn. You cheat out the ritual mechanics. This archetype, I'm so excited. Reading all these cards, I am so stoked to see what the next wave of support for this archetype is, because I have so many things going through my mind right now. Not only did it make 2 of the original OG ritual archetypes, well, they're not even archetypes, 2 of the OG rituals that never had their own archetype, they fused them together and made a brand new archetype that actually seems competitively good. Like, honestly, this deck seems insane. Like, yeah, the level 6 ritual only draws 2 or rips a card out of your hand. Who cares? The other one is a Soul Morning on legs, and the other one is a 4100 beat stick that searches and is an Omni Negate. And then it has a trap card that literally says pop 2. That is absolutely insane. And everything about this deck seems very consistent and very powerful. I can definitely see this being splashed in another ritual archetype and actually doing some really, really competitive things. You tell me in the comments if you're excited for this, but I really am. Konami has knocked it out of the park with this set. It looks like Phantom of Nightmare is basically the set going over older cards and just retraining them into brand new archetypes. If you notice, that's what Konami's been doing lately. The new Yubel cards are basically revamping the Yubel archetype. The what's it called? The Memento cards are based on all the original OG vanilla monsters that were played in like back in Legend of Blue Eyes days. And yeah, I just feel like Konami's doing a great job of revamping old cards that OG players know and making them into really powerful archetypes. Like, I'm really excited to own these cards. I really want to see rituals be meta again. And this might be the case. This might be the next meta ritual archetype. I can definitely see it. And it has a fairy in the archetype, so you can play Drytron and Herald of Ultimateness. Ah, man, this might be a little too good. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what this deck can be splashed in, if it's good on its own. I think it is, but we'll just have to see. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy. Don't do anything stupid, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.